What if one day you were walking down the street and saw 4 children identical to you? That's exactly what happened to Liam. A millionaire who always believed he had absolute control over his life, until in the blink of an eye, everything turned upside down. When he came across an unknown woman and 4 children with his exact features, a disturbing doubt took hold of him. Could he be their father? What began as simple curiosity quickly turned into a whirlwind of emotions, secrets, and shocking revelations. But the worst was yet to come. Get ready, because this story will grip you from start to finish. Liam was on the phone in his Manhattan penthouse, the sun reflecting off the surrounding skyscrapers. He looked out of the window as his energetic voice echoed through the room. If we double the investment now, the profit will be exponential. On the other end of the line, his partner laughed. You always think about money before anything else, huh, Liam? Liam hung up the call with an automatic smile, but there was something different about him that day. The emptiness he usually ignored seemed more evident. With a sigh, he grabbed his car keys and walked down to his Lamborghini. As the engine roared, he tried to shake off the uncomfortable feeling that accompanied him. Speeding through the busy streets, he stopped at a traffic light, watching the people passing by. It was then that something caught his eye. On the sidewalk, a woman was hurrying along, pulling 4 children behind her. For a moment, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. He muttered, "That's impossible." The children were identical to him, the same piercing eyes, the same marked chin, even the way they moved seemed familiar. His heart raced, and he decided to follow them. When the light turned green, he turned the corner and parked up ahead, getting out of the car with quick steps. "Hold on," he shouted. The woman stopped, her eyes wide. She clasped the children's hands, drawing them closer to her, as if instinctively wanting to protect them. "What do you want?" she asked suspiciously. Liam hesitated for a moment. He never felt insecure, but something about this situation made him feel out of control. "I need to ask you something." The woman raised her chin, her gaze defiant. "Whatever it is, I'm not interested," Liam insisted, taking a step forward. "Those children, he swallowed. "They look a lot like me." "That's none of your business," she replied, squeezing the little one's hands even tighter. He shook his head, trying to organize his thoughts. "You don't understand. There's something—" He stopped. Then the words slipped out before he could think. "They're my children, aren't they?" Her eyes narrowed, and the tension between them became palpable. "Are you crazy?" she snapped. "We don't need you." Liam opened his mouth to reply, but a memory struck him like a bolt of lightning. Years ago, a difficult phase, the decision to do something that seemed irrelevant at the time. He muttered to himself, barely hearing his own words. 5 years ago. The laboratory. The woman took a step back, pulling the children along. "If you don't get out of my way now, I'll call the police." But Liam didn't move. He took off his sunglasses, revealing blue eyes that were identical to those of the children. "Please, just tell me one thing. Who is their father?" She pressed her lips together, her gaze oscillating between anger and something else. Perhaps fear. After a long moment of silence, she answered coldly, "They don't have a father. They only have me." He took a step forward, lowering his voice. "I don't want to cause trouble, but I need to understand. There's something, a connection." "You can't ignore it." She interrupted him with a gesture. "That's none of your business." But Liam continued, "My name is Liam. Years ago, I made a donation to a laboratory. Were you at the Glenview Fertility Clinic?" Her reaction was instantaneous. Her eyes widened, and she took another step back. He knew he'd got it right. Finally, she let out a heavy sigh and faced him. "I don't know what you want with me, but these children are all I have. They don't need a father. I've given them everything." Liam remained silent, processing her words. He knew there was much more to this story, but at that moment he realized that his life would never be the same. The silence between them was interrupted by one of the boys tugging at the sleeve of the woman's blouse. "Mom, who is that guy?" She hesitated before answering, her eyes still locked on Liam. "Nobody, darling, let's go home." But Liam didn't back down. "Please listen to me. I'm not here to take anything away from you. I just want to understand." The woman let out a humorless laugh. "Understand what? That you made an unimportant decision years ago and now, on a whim, you want to know what happened?" He swallowed. "It wasn't a whim. At the time, I didn't think it was relevant. But now, look at them. It's impossible to deny." She sighed, looking exhausted. "What do you want from us?" Liam hesitated. He was never the kind of man to think before he acted, but this time he knew he had to choose his words carefully. "I just want to get to know them." She crossed her arms. "And then what? You play dad for a few weeks and then disappear?" Liam shook his head. "I don't know. But I do know that I can't just pretend I never saw you." She looked at him for a long moment, then suddenly laughed bitterly. "You want proof, right? A DNA test." "I would if it would help," Liam replied. "I don't need a test to know that I'm the only person who matters to them," she snapped. One of the boys looked at Liam curiously. "You have a very nice car." Liam's heart took an unexpected leap. He knelt down to the children's height. "Would you like to have a look?" The boy looked at his mother for permission. She hesitated, but before she could answer, another of the little ones was already pulling Liam by the hand. "Mom, let me! Let's have a look." She sighed and looked at Liam. "If I do anything to scare them, I swear I'd never do that," he interrupted her. The children ran to the car, excited. Liam opened the doors, letting them climb in and press the buttons. He watched as they laughed, having fun like any children would. Then something changed. He couldn't explain it, but he felt something different, a warmth in his chest, a feeling of belonging that he had never experienced before. The woman, who until then had been watching everything with her arms crossed, finally relaxed her shoulders. "They like you," she admitted softly. "I like them too," Liam replied. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He looked quickly and saw his assistant's name flashing on the screen. "If you want answers, get in the car with me now." "It's a matter of life and death." Liam's countenance hardened. He looked at the woman and the children. "I need to go somewhere. I want you to come with me." She arched an eyebrow. "Now? Do you really think I'm going to get into a stranger's car? I'm not a stranger, not to them." He took a deep breath. "I need you to trust me." She looked at the children who were smiling at Liam. Then she looked at him again. "If I go, it's because I want answers." He nodded. "And I promise you'll get them." She sighed and looked at her children. "Get in the car, children." Liam felt something change at that moment. Whatever it was, his life would never be the same again. The car sped through the city streets, dense silence filling the space between the adults. The children, oblivious to the tension, admired the luxury of the vehicle, laughing and pointing out the shiny details on the dashboard. "This car is cooler than Uncle Marcos's," said one of the boys excitedly. The woman sitting next to Liam kept her gaze fixed on the road. "Where exactly are we going?" Liam kept his hands firmly on the steering wheel. "To my house." She snorted. "Of course. The millionaire needs to show off his big mansion to impress." "That's not it." He glanced at her. "My grandmother wants to meet you." Disbelief flashed across her face. "Your grandmother?" "Yes. She doesn't have long to live. If these boys are my sons, then she needs to know." She took a deep breath, thinking for a moment, but before she could say anything, the car slowed down in front of the iron gates of an imposing mansion. As soon as they entered, the children were enchanted by the impeccable gardens and the fountain that gushed with crystal-clear water. "This is a castle," exclaimed one of the girls. Liam smiled. "Something like that." As they entered, there was a reverent silence. Upstairs, An elderly woman was waiting for them in a wheelchair, her expression serious but kind. Her eyes passed slowly over the children before turning to Liam. "Have you finally found something that money can't buy?" Liam smiled. "I think so." The woman motioned for the children to come closer. Hesitant at first, they soon felt at ease, charmed by their warm grandmother. "What are your names?" she asked softly. The children answered their names with laughter and curiosity. The woman looked at Camilla, her expression full of emotion. "They have Liam's smile." Camilla nodded, pressing her lips together. Liam could see that she was struggling to hold it together. Then the moment was brutally interrupted. The front door opened with a bang, and a sharp voice echoed through the foyer. "Liam!" Everyone turned at once. A tall, sophisticated woman entered with firm steps. Bianca. Her eyes quickly scanned the scene before settling on Camilla. "What's going on here? Who is this woman?" Camilla crossed her arms. "I could ask the same about you." Bianca let out a dry laugh. "I'm Liam's fiancée." Silence filled the room. The children, sensing the tension, approached their mother. Liam, however, remained silent. Bianca looked at him, waiting for him to say something. "You didn't tell me you were engaged," Camilla muttered, her expression indecipherable. Liam massaged his temple. "Bianca, now is not the time." She ignored it. She pulled an envelope out of her bag and threw it on the table. "I think now is the perfect time." Liam took the envelope and pulled out the contents. An ultrasound image. His expression tightened. "I'm pregnant," Bianca declared with satisfaction. "And not by one, but by 3. Camilla paled. Liam felt the weight of the information, but before he could react, a soft sound cut through the silence. "That's impossible." Everyone turned to the source of the voice. It was Liam's grandmother, her expression impenetrable. "What are you talking about, Grandma?" Liam asked. She took a deep breath and, with a sharp look, stared at Bianca. "You had a vasectomy 3 years ago. That woman is lying." The shock was instantaneous. Bianca stood still, unable to disguise her surprise. Camilla looked from one to the other, her face a mask of disbelief. Liam, for his part, felt his world spin. "What?" Bianca finally whispered. Her grandmother repeated firmly. "You can't be expecting children from Liam." The overwhelming silence was broken only by Bianca's heavy breathing. Her expression oscillated between shock and fury. "You're lying!" she shouted. Liam looked at her, then at his grandmother. Is that true?" The woman nodded. "You made a point of erasing that detail from your mind, but I've never forgotten it." Bianca staggered back a step. Her gaze became cold and calculating. "That doesn't change anything," she hissed. "You're still my fiancé." Liam stood up slowly, taking a deep breath. Then, looking at Bianca with an expression that left no doubt, he said, "No, I'm not." The fury on his face was instantaneous. Bianca picked up her bag, cast one last venomous glance at Camilla and the children, and stormed out the door. Liam stood still for a moment before looking back at Camilla. She watched him in silence, and he knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The silence that settled after Bianca left was heavy, full of unspoken things. The children, oblivious to the adult drama, went back to playing with Liam's grandmother, laughing as she told them stories about her youth. Camilla, however, remained motionless, her arms crossed and her expression closed. "So," she finally broke the silence, her gaze fixed on Liam. "What happens now?" Liam took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the last few hours. "I don't know." Camilla let out a humorless laugh. "Great answer. He paused, searching for the words. "I never imagined something like this could happen." "Neither did I," she said, her voice cold. "But the difference between us is that I never had a choice." Liam felt the blow of those words. He looked at the children, who now surrounded their grandmother, curiously touching the delicate jewelry she wore. His heart squeezed as he realized how much he had lost without even knowing it. "I want to be part of their lives," he said, his voice firm. Camilla stared at him for a long moment. "And what exactly does that mean? Do you want to send them expensive presents at Christmas? Pay for a luxury nanny? Because if so, you can forget it." Liam nodded. "No, I want to be a father. I want to be there." Camilla crossed her arms. "Do you think it's that simple? You may want to be a father now, but what about when you realize that the life you know doesn't allow it? And when you get sick of the idea?" Liam took a step forward, his expression determined. "I'm not going to get sick of my children." She was silent for a moment. Then she sighed. "I don't know if I can trust that." Liam's grandmother, who had been listening quietly until then, caught their eye. "Camilla, my dear," she said softly, "I know that trusting someone like my grandson can't be easy, but love can transform even the most lost." Camilla looked at the old woman, her eyes softening slightly. "I don't know if he wants this out of love or out of obligation." Liam took a step closer. "If I wanted to settle this with money, I would have done it already. But this isn't about money." He looked at the children again and felt something inside him change irrevocably. He knew that all his life he had been chasing the wrong things. "I want to try, Camilla. I want to learn to be a father." She watched him intently. "If I accept, you have to understand one thing. There's no middle ground here. They're not a hobby." Liam nodded. "I know." His grandmother smiled, pleased. "So, my boy, it looks like you've finally found something worth fighting for." Liam looked at Camilla again, and this time she didn't look away. The next few days were an unexpected transition. Camilla and the children stayed at the mansion for a while, and Liam got to know them better. Small moments became significant, like when he helped one of the boys tie his shoes or when the girls ran up to him with drawings they had made. One night, as they watched the children sleeping, Liam turned to Camilla. "Thank you for giving me this chance." She looked at him, her expression softer than before. "Don't thank me yet. You still have a lot to prove." He smiled. "I know." And for the first time in years, Liam felt that he was exactly where he should be.